Hello and welcome to a conversation on the Daily Bern. I'm your host, Eric Miller, joined today by an awesome, fierce, and fiery progressive from the great state of Florida, Jen Perelman. How you doing, Jen?
Good. I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for taking some time to chat with me about your race and some of the...
I'm sorry. I know it's inevitable. There's somebody coming in. It's going to get calm in a second. I'm so sorry.
No
do
worries,
you hear me okay? Lulu.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's and what's so sad about it is that my husband's not home yet. He'll be home any minute to help with this. My kid's across the street. The other one's at work. Like, I'm all alone and nobody can tend to the dogs.
It's all right. It's okay.
Okay.
Good that they're there, right?
Yeah.
So you're running in Florida's 23rd, and I want to, obviously there's a kind of a hot button incumbent there that we'll talk about, and just to contrast, what you're fighting for versus what she's sort of paid to obstruct, right? And we'll get into all that, but as a little bit of your background, I guess the first kind of question. So I think you worked on the Tim Canova campaign before. What's a little bit of your background and what inspired you to run this time around?
So my background is on a, just personal level. I am from South Florida. I'm actually a second generation native to this area. I was born in North Miami Beach. So this is my hometown. So it's just something that matters to me. I'm not like a lot of people are kind of transplants here. I am an attorney, and really for the past 10 years, prior to running for this, I have been inactive and home with my boys. My interest is in criminal justice. I really enjoy doing criminal defense after law school. I've done other forms of commercial litigation, and down here I've done condo and HOA litigation. But my passion is really criminal justice, and that is one of the biggest parts of our platform. But my background is just, I have journalism actually. Prior to going to law school, I'm a journalism person. So I see myself as sort of like this whistleblower inside going through this process and really reporting on it as I go through it and as I find it, and without anything to gain personally. So it's pretty empowering.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what a combination of an interest in the pursuit of justice and a curious nature for the truth, right? That's awesome.
Exactly.
I've watched a lot of your interviews, and there are a lot of inspiring candidates around the country, but you are, you're on the leading edge of that. You're super well versed on policy. When I got this chance here to talk to you, I was like, well, what could I talk to about? There's so many things, right? But first I want to actually take a look at your district, right? So it's Florida 23. And the reason I do this is because districts tend to be ridiculously gerrymandered, and people sometimes don't.
Okay, this is hands down. You now win the most proactive, prepared interview I've had in over 18 months. I always try to explain what my district looks like to people, and this is the first time anyone's pulled it up. But yes, that is how ridiculously gerrymandered my district is.
Yeah. Well, it's not as bad as Sheila's. Sheila's is.
Oh, well, yeah. Alcee, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Florida 23 is Greater Miami, a little bit, I guess, Fort Lauderdale, Broward County.
It's really more Broward than Miami-Dade, much more so. In fact, there's not, very little of Miami-Dade. It's just Aventura and then down a strip of the beach to Surfside.
Okay.
And the rest is South Broward.
Okay. So what's, since we have this up, what do you want to, tout your district? What do you want to brag on it about?
It's extremely diverse, our district. I love that on one coast, we are on the Atlantic Ocean, and the other edge of my district butts up to the Everglades, which is one of the coolest ecosystems in the entire country. And there's a lot of things I've often complained about Florida in terms of heat and humidity, but one of the coolest things about it down here is the ecosystems. And I feel like I have a wide range of both. We also have a very diverse population of people in our district. So yes, you have a lot of suburbanites out in the West area. And then we have vulnerable communities that are more urban, and we have, the coast right down. I mean, it's really diverse, our district.
Is that, let's talk a little bit about, I know you support Medicare for All, Green New Deal, and I want to talk about how that influences or how that message gets heard amongst your constituents, right? So I always assume that a coastal area, when you're talking Green New Deal, has to be kind of a no-brainer. How do you reach your constituency with, talking about the Green New Deal?
It's interesting because yes, you would think based on geographic location that would be like the most pressing concern here. And it is for younger people. For older people, not as much. That's one of those issues that is pretty generationally divided, as is Medicare for all, both of those in the opposite direction. So, in the same direction. It's young people. Both of those issues are more young people oriented. But when we explain to older people and they boomer age people, we're talking about your grandchildren being able to have clean water. Like, this isn't just about sea level rise. I think people need to understand that Florida, yes, that is an issue, is the encroachment of sea level rise in terms of people that live in the lower lying areas, but it's more of a freshwater encroachment problem. Our whole state is built on limestone. So as sea level rises, it comes up underneath and it affects our fresh water.
Right on. I would imagine resiliency is a big concern.
All right, now I'm just going to hold on 1 second, and then she's going to come in, and then everything is going to settle down. And I'm so sorry. What you're talking about, like us in terms of our infrastructure down here?
Yeah, infrastructure resiliency. Yeah.
It's not set up well here. We have very old and decrepit infrastructure. We allow developers and big money interests to come in and keep encroaching and building without investing significantly in the ecosystem and the infrastructure. And it's a massive problem. It's a massive problem, but it's corporatism, it's capitalism, it's everything you would expect down here. But it is not being made a priority by certainly not our congressional delegation, not even in the least. And that is something that should be a concern.
Yeah, let's talk about that. It's obviously Debbie Wasserman Schultz. I guess there's a few things to hit on there. Her careerism versus your public advocacy. Can you contrast those?
Yes. So she is an extremely corporate bought person. I mean, we know that. We know that she takes money from corporate interest, special interest. But it isn't just that she takes money from corporate interests. It's that they're nefarious corporate interests. So, for example, I am a supporter of criminal justice reform. I support decriminalizing marijuana, abolishing for-profit prisons. I support ending qualified immunity for police officers. So at every level of the process. So Debbie takes money she's the second highest Democratic recipient of police PACs in terms of doing police reform. She calls marijuana a gateway drug and takes money from big pharma and the alcohol industry, which are both interests that are contra to the majority of people who want legalization of marijuana. And she has taken money from the for-profit corrections industry. So basically across the board in criminal justice on every single part of it, she takes nefarious money, and it's stuff that I've been arguing for 20 years. So basically every issue you can go through with that and find the profit motive on her end versus what's in the best interest of the collective, and not just what's in our best interest, but what most people want. And I think that is something that we need to make clear. This is not some radical left wing, I represent the left. No, most people want these things. Yeah. And it's her job to give us what we want as our employee.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of which, just to touch on the news a little bit, last week, the Democratic platform, that vote to vote down Medicare for all, it's just so deflating, right?
Medicare for all, and they voted against having decriminalization of marijuana. Both things that are overwhelmingly popular with Democrats, but also countrywide, nationally. Both of those things are majority approved items.
Yeah. And the 10% on the military budget, I'm assuming she voted against that as well.
She voted against that. She voted against pulling out of Afghanistan. And last week, she also was one of 30 Democrats that voted to give the president an additional $50 billion for the Department of Homeland Security. And that's in the midst of everything going on in Portland.
Yeah. And that, that budget last time around included Space Force, and she voted for that. That just straight up gave him Space Force, a talking point, right?
We can't even get a train extended here. We don't even have like high-speed rail. We can't get our train to go from West Palm Beach to Orlando, and she's funding his Space Force. So this is not somebody who's prioritizing our interests, certainly not at a local level, and in the interest of our most vulnerable communities in this district. But that would apply throughout. I mean, that would apply everywhere.
Yeah. Let me ask about, so you talked about the diversity of your district, and obviously racial justice is something you're fighting for, leading on, and she takes private prison money, et cetera, et cetera. I guess twofold, right? How has she failed on that front? We kind of mentioned that already. And how does that message get over with your constituency? Do they recognize that failure?
This district is very divided based on her, in a sense of like who her voters are and who her supporters are. So she has a core group of supporters that they support her no matter what. Doesn't matter. They don't care. You could tell them anything. They support her. For the most part, everyone else is pretty much universally in favor of these types of policies. And so when they hear that she is like a warrior against marijuana, or that 7 years ago she tried to put a for-profit immigration detention center in our district, when people hear those things, they are pretty turned off, with the exception of her core group that no matter what you tell them. Most people, when they are really when it's explained to them that we have a for-profit correction system, that we literally have people that profit per person per day in our facilities, most people are repulsed by this. So really, this has been a huge education campaign. But when people know this is what's happening, she takes money from these industries, it doesn't go over well.
Yeah. I have to commend you on your social media. Every time Bernie would post in 2020, Jen Perelman was the next post right beneath it. I always thought I have to credit my partner, my campaign manager, because really he is the brain behind our social media. Yeah, it's fantastic. Good. Well done. So with, obviously with the recent, flare-ups and the momentum around Black Lives Matter sort of gaining steam and even polling better than ever before. I guess with Medicare for All during the pandemic, like reality is endorsing these priorities, these platform planks of yours, right? Can you talk about, the COVID response in your district and, what you would do and how she's failed, that type of thing?
I have been saying since the beginning that this pandemic, while it has hindered our literal campaigning process in the sense that we have had minimized canvassing, we were shut down completely for a chunk of time, but it has certainly helped us own the narrative. And I have said this from the beginning, that on the left, this pandemic has given us a huge opportunity to really make a point of the things that we've been saying for so many years. And so I have seen it as an opportunity. And there is definitely, I think we have seen a shift in mindset over the past 4 years, but definitely over the past year significantly regarding these issues. But our district, it's a disaster. It's an unmitigated disaster. We have a governor that is essentially a state version of Donald Trump, mimics Donald Trump, was essentially put there to hand Florida to Trump in this election. And so our action on a state level has mimicked Trump's action on a federal level. So as you could see, it is not good. Florida never properly shut down. It is totally a mess. Our unemployment system is one of the worst, go figure, Florida. And so people are in a really bad way. We have a huge amount of employees in this district that are people that are contract workers, whether it's entertainment industry, bartenders, things that revolve around everything from cruises to the tourism industry. And these are people that don't even qualify for unemployment anyway. Right. So there is massive levels of desperation in this district. And we also have one of the worst wealth inequality gaps and affordable housing problems. All of those things, we are like tinderbox for an explosion here. And I have not seen anybody in our representatives, in our leadership, doing anything other than no, Trump, no, Governor DeSantis. I don't see them doing anything to solve anything. And then in the same week of saying, oh, they're handling things horribly, let's just give him an additional $50 billion to be handling the protests a certain way. So they're not taking any action. They're not siding with the policies that would help regular people. Nobody in this district, our representation, is speaking up for more than the $1,200 one-time payment that we got as part of the was it the second, or that was the first stimulus package. But I mean, nobody's been advocating for small businesses here. Nobody has been doing anything here.
Brutal. Yeah. How about so the constituencies there, I assume, is a bit, you have an older crowd there as well, or I am misrepresenting Florida. That might be a stereotype, but is, Medicare for All as it stands. So I'm assuming you would sign on to Pramila Jayapal's version of the bill, and, Bernie's at a drop of a hat.
Yes.
And we didn't explicitly say it, but you don't take corporate PAC money. That kind of goes without saying, but have to say it anyway. The election is August 18th. Have to throw that in. We will a couple more times. But can you talk about Medicare for All as you would like it, and long-term care, drug price negotiations, et cetera?
Yeah, that's the part that we really focus on when we're talking to the community of our constituents that already have Medicare. When they have Medicare, and I'm like, yes, but now you would have vision, dental, long-term care, and affordable prescriptions. So, there are things that Medicare does not cover that Medicare for All does include. And that's sort of the selling points we use to the older community. And really more for them, we talk more about Social Security expansion and eliminating the cap and things like that. But Medicare for All, to me, is you have to remove the profit motive from healthcare, same as you do for corrections. So healthcare, there cannot be a for-profit situation in healthcare. It doesn't work. So that's what I see. And so to me, it's taking out the middleman, which we know is like this rapacious, predatory middleman that is completely unnecessary, that is siphoning the money out from our healthcare into shareholders. So that has to go. It just has to go. And we can talk about different means of how the single payer works. We could talk about different policies and how it applies to different groups. I mean, there's different things that can be negotiated amongst that, but we need to get rid of the profit motive. That, to me, it just has to go. Yeah.
And I want to point out too, when I pulled up the district, it's a D+10 district. So I keep saying, like I said, reality has endorsed these policies, the progressive policies. Why would you not want the fightingest fighter fighting for those policies rather than someone that's paid to obstruct those very life-saving policies, right?
Comfort, there's the incumbent advantage. And, the benefit to us as a campaign versus a typical challenger situation is that we know that incumbents are advantaged just in general, whether it's by control of the media, they already have a platform, they're being protected, whatever it is, incumbents are favored. But in our case, our particular incumbent definitely has haters. She definitely has a group of people, whereas most incumbents around the country, most people don't know who they are. Most people don't know who someone else's congressional representative. And even if they're a corporate incumbent, that doesn't mean they're so hated. But that does give us an advantage over an incumbent that other people might not have.
Right. Yeah. There's how many seats while she was at the DNC did we lose?
More than 1,000.
Oh my goodness.
And what's freaking me out right now, and people aren't talking about it enough, is she's seeking to get chair of appropriations. So her being ousted eliminates the possibility of her being the chair of appropriations, which it's just unfathomable to me.
Right. Wow. So let's look a little bit more at your policies and, Medicare for All we talked about, Green New Deal, getting money out of politics, human rights, cancel student debt, free public colleges. Let's talk about those a little bit. And then let me just hit on your endorsements before I pull this up. Brand new Congress, Sunrise, Florida. You got some awesome endorsements. Andrew Yang, Marianne Williamson, Women for Justice, Revolution Broward. Far too many to list. Go to your website. And you know what? The thing I really like about your website, actually, let me pull that up super quick because I think it's awesome.
Yeah,
I
you are hands down winning as like best audio visual host ever.
Well,
Were
thank
you in the
Thank
AV club? Were you in the AV club?
I was not, but I think it's valuable, right? You know, when you
No,
go to
it's
people's,
great. And I'm old, and a lot of this stuff, like even technologically wise, it's like I'm just still fascinated.
yeah, I love that you have this on your website. Find your polling locations, right? And you
Yeah.
have the dates. So the election day is August 18th, but early voting has started, I guess, today, right?
In the Miami-Dade portion of our district, early voting started today. In Broward, it starts on the 8th.
Right on. Yeah, so here's all polling locations, all the information
Yeah,
you
we
need.
have been
Texas
linked
matters.
to the election, like to people being able to change their voter registration since the beginning of my website. Because we have
Awesome.
closed primaries. So we needed everybody to be registered as Democrat by July 20th. So,
Right
yeah, that was the first part of the battle.
Yeah, and of course you can donate up here, which is super
Oh,
important,
yes, please
right?
do.
Yeah, and people can sign up and volunteer, phone bank, text bank. There you said she has her share of haters, right? And a couple other people shares too, but there's a bit of schadenfreude with her, like especially for Bernie folks. So, this is a completely flippable seat, winnable. We can pick it up. We can get a true advocate for the people rather than a corporate puppet. So, don't regret not getting involved after the fact. Get involved now and go to it's gen2020.com is your website. But let's hit on the education piece, free public college universities. Talk about that if you would.
So education, and specifically public education, is really the third thing in my trifecta of things that ought not ever be for profit. So education isn't a cost. Healthcare isn't a cost. These are investments, okay? And that's a huge distinction. War, military, those are costs. Education is an investment in our people. And I want to be very clear that by education, I don't necessarily just mean college. It could be trade school, it could be apprenticeship, it could be subsidizing, different types of hands-on things. I mean, I'm pretty open to that, but it's this concept of we're all better benefited by a well-educated citizenry. And the fact that people want to debate that is just, I almost feel like sometimes I'm on like candid camera, and I'm like, are they joking that this is even something? Are we really discussing why we would want to or not want to invest in people's education? So yeah, that is something that needs to just be a baseline for us from pre-K all the way up through another additional 4 years, I would say, post where we are now. Needs to be what we view as there's a baseline, and the federal government needs to subsidize that across the board. So kids in middle of nowhere, Mississippi, okay, and I don't care what color anybody is getting the same baseline quality level of education as the kids that are on Park Avenue, right? Like everybody should be getting this baseline, and it looks different in different places. That is something that has to be, it's overseen by states, but the money to support our teachers and our academic environment, that needs to be subsidized by federal funding to make the entire situation, it's not so much equal as equity. And having the places in all different areas have the same quality of education. And that is on the feds to oversee. It is, because every state is different. And it's not working for us as a country to have, Florida's 46th, I think. It's not working this way.
Right. So are you talking about like subsidizing property taxes, which is how schools are paid for now, or?
I am. I'm talking about subsidizing education, public education, so that we can guarantee teachers get a $60,000 a year salary. And that's going to require different places getting different amounts of money to create that equity. That's what I'm saying. So if you're talking about school districts that are floating in money, well, they already have computers for all their students, right? They have that. So it isn't about giving them the exact same amount as giving the schools that are vulnerable. It's making sure that everybody has what they need to be at this baseline that we agree is what is needed for us to have educated people. And it's not complicated. It involves speaking with educators and people that are experts in the field of education, not people like Betsy DeVos. This is about actually speaking with educators about as to what is best for education policy. And that's something that we don't do in any area. But yeah, I think that we need to start treating education as an investment and not a cost.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I want to see you on the house of the House floor speaking passionately. Like there's this thing you know the difference. Like I'm preaching to the choir here, but when you're watching a polished, consultant driven, everyone deserves access to quality and affordable healthcare, like just no content, right? And it's just so milquetoast, wishy-washy, paid to lose, right? Versus someone like Jen, like that fire that you have, boy, we need that now more than ever. So I thank you for running, and thank you for raising your
I feel like on the one hand, but I'm absolutely mentally prepared to not win, because really I am a person of science and reason, and statistically speaking, that's not how this goes, and I am fully aware of that. But then on the other hand, I think about, oh my God, we win. There's a whole bunch of people that already have like me in the crosshairs, that people in the leadership, people in the party, people that, because I say what I think and I have no reason not to, and so I always want to make the disclaimer of, I don't know how policy effective someone like me is, but I am loud and I am a sounding board. So, it's transparency and it's loudness. It's not necessarily efficacy in the beginning. There needs to be more of us. That's just the reality.
Yeah, I mean, but there is a tipping point, right? So
absolutely,
and there are enough seats within this cycle that we could potentially get to that tipping point.
I hope so. I was very excited about Jamal. He is one of my BNC slate mates. I was very excited about him. Tomorrow, I really want to see Cori Bush pull it off. Paula Jean Swearingen in the Senate. I mean, like, we definitely have some people. Eva Putskova in Arizona. So I obviously, I'm always cheering for the slate mates. Oh, Rebecca Parsons is in Washington. So tomorrow it could be a really, a good thing. I was very happy to see about Jamal Bowman taking out Elliot Engel.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alex Morris in Massachusetts, that's another biggie, right? Julie Oliver in Texas, Mike Siegel. Yeah, there's a lot of really great ones to pick up. In fact, you in Florida, I forget what the name that you guys, Guido Weiss.
Guido, we say Florida Fab Four.
That's it.
Guido Weiss is challenging Lois Frankel. Sheila Scherflis McCormick is challenging Alcee Hastings, who is, and I don't want to say this meanly, I really don't, but he is, I want to say early 80s. He has stage 4 cancer and is running again instead of passing a torch. And so, to me, that just speaks to me about an entitlement that I just find just suffocating. And then Christine Olivo is challenging Frederica Wilson, but she is running as an independent, so she's not on our primary ballot. Right on.
And all those elections are on August 18th. So
yes,
I've had Guido and Sheila on. We mentioned gen2020.com. Home stretch, we got like 2 weeks. How can people help? What do you need?
We need money and we need volunteers. We have quite a good phone banks operation going, but the more the merrier. The more numbers we can dial and the more people on the dialer makes it happen faster. Someone explained it to me. It's a tech thing. I don't completely understand, but we need people dialing. And if you go to gen2020.com, you can sign up to phone bank. It's very easy. You can do it from home. Also, we accept all sorts of in-kind donations. So if somebody is an excellent video producer or a graphic artist, or somebody can somehow or has some political campaign capability that you want to help us and give us your time, we accept it. I mean, we are really just a people-powered grassroots. I mean, it's my campaign manager and I are partners. Up until fairly recently, I knew all the volunteers. Now we have people phone banking even in Spain, which is really cool to me. So yes, we have bilingual phone bankers with even official like Castilian Spanish. That's how fancy we are. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So we're just, we're just trudging along and trying to inspire and create this snowball effect.
Awesome. Well, yeah. So August 18th is the day again, Gen 2020, what a blessing it would be to have public servants like Jen serving the public, right? Clearly, you're
that's what it's about.
pure, uncorrupted, I mean, we could talk for hours and hours.
Well, what's funny is, how somebody doesn't want this as a career and has no interest in longevity is like, you really see it as a term of public service. Well, that's an ass kicking. That's like being a social worker for, how many people live in my district. That's a real difficult job, right? If you were really thinking of it in those terms, you wouldn't want to do it forever. There's a reason that those type of service jobs have burnout rates that they do. They're not things that you can really do forever. So for me, I look at it as a short and sweet stint of service, because it isn't something that should be done as a career. You pass the torch, you mentor young people, you inspire a movement and move on. And that's what I'm hoping this campaign is. That's the paradigm shift I'd like to see in politics in general. So that's what we've been putting out there.
Yeah. And just to repeat it, it's a D+10 district. So sometimes people will, think, oh, well, I got to vote for the safer Democrat or whatever. But, this is a safe district. There's no chance of it going to a Republican.
And she's been spreading that, by the way. She has been having that being leaked out there. I actually had somebody while I was canvassing the other day, somebody younger than me, this is the best, that said, she didn't know, I don't think she knew I was me. She just knew we were canvassing for Jen. She didn't know that necessarily I was Jen. And I said, well, Jen, and she said, too radical, too young, can't afford to lose this seat. And so that's when I knew that she has definitely been slipping that out there. And it is ludicrous. And the Republicans in this district do not even put money behind their own candidates because they know that's how safe it is.
Yeah. So again, why would you not want the fightingest fighter, right? So, Jen Perelman, yeah, thank you for your service. Thanks for running. Good luck on the 18th. Hope to talk to you on the other side once you're in the general and then on the floor. I think you're a superstar. So, Godspeed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. And if we make it onto that other side, we'll win or lose. I will be speaking to people such as yourself. Like, I have an idea of people in my head who will all get first dibs before I would even anywhere go near mainstream media. So, we will be talking to you. Jordan Sheraton gets my first interview.
But did Jordan bring up a map of the district? I mean, come on.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. But Jordan was my very first interview back in, I want to say December, and was the first person, and is also friends with my campaign manager. So
right on. Yeah, he's awesome. So cool. Understood. Awesome. Well, thank you, Jen. Good luck on the 18th, and I will talk to you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.